Daryl's ready.
Hey, Daryl.
Hi, sure. How's it going?
Good, how are you? I always have to remember that it's freezing in here, and so I have to like dress for winter.
I know where I can get you a port sweatshirt.
You like the temperature?
I know,
Keeps the
it's,
party moving.
I don't think it's cold, but I've got
We're-
this
we're like-
finished fat layer that's just.
well, so do I, but
Insulation,
like, that's not,
Hardcore.
it doesn't work that way for me.
Doesn't work that
I get the feeling.
So I guess we can call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Are there any modifications, additions to the agenda?
Just a note that there is a revised agenda with a lease number K or letter K on the consent agenda, approved lease with Clay Commons in the Big Seven buildings, a late addition.
Okay. And just for clarification, these new leases, they all follow the new leases and,
Yes, with the
Okay.
extra, with the common area
Perfect.
fees and basically the exterior fees are included.
okay. And public comment, anyone signed up for that? I did read the comment from Mr. Pollock. But I don't see anyone signed up, and if that's okay, then we'll move on to consent. Questions about consent or?
I
can I
have
get
a
a-
question about the public comment. Is
Yes,
this
sir.
the appropriate time for that?
Sure, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what the question is.
Okay. So I guess my question's for Kevin, and that is that, Mr. Hollitz's complaints about the, app for parking. Is what he's saying been substantiated by the experience of other users, these problems with. Not working
Well,
correctly?
we certainly have received complaints about the inability of using the equipment.
Uh,
One thing that was interesting at the back of the executive director's report, there's the parking data, and so.
Yeah.
When you look at that, 93% of the users had no problems. They were able to pay for parking, and so, and of the 6-7% of the citations, only 25% were waived.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit more concerned if it was if it was closer to 80% were waived.
Yeah.
But I think that there is an issue out there. We're actually working with Verizon to potentially put a repeater or some type of antenna down on the waterfront. Who knows when that's going to happen? But yes, that we have received complaints about that.
I'm not familiar with this parking app, Flowbird. That's
Yes,
the one that we're using.
yes, that's the one that.
Do we have an
use.
option? Can people use Passport like they use in downtown Hood River, or no, there's this app?
They're stuck with that app, but they can also use the text.
Okay.
Pay by text. You just put the phone number and then it pops up the options.
Would it be difficult to implement something like, lots of places that you go? You see a sign that says this is zone whatever.
Yeah.
Pick one of X of these apps and you have your choice. So for instance, you could use. You know, there's like 4 or 5 different apps, and you can just pick, oh, I use that one, just use that one. Could we do something like that, or is that?
I don't know. It's worth looking into.
Or at least for these people that are having trouble, does it make sense to put a couple of signs down there that give them a little bit more detail? About step by step, here's what you gotta do, even if you use the text one,
Sure.
which is probably the easiest. And to use the text, do this, expect to put your credit card number in here,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Assuming that people will know where that sign, because that would probably be fairly detailed.
Or can you take a photo? I forget what they call it,
QR code.
QR
That's what we
code
have.
yeah,
We actually
on
have
your
that.
Yeah,
sign.
those are on there.
And if you're having trouble, hit the QR code
Mhm.
and up comes a kind of a,
Those are on there already.
Yeah, and I think that absolutely. I think the issue though is more about the cell service.
Yeah,
Okay,
So if you didn't have good cell service, you might not be able to use the QR code or even get to the point to where you're putting your license plate number.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's gonna matter which app you use, it's all of them.
Mhm.
And it's specifically this very small stretch along the waterfront that has a problem, and trust me, I know. 'cause,
Okay,
But
We
it
have it
is
in our
gonna-
building.
It sounds like we need to beat up the phone company to get a repeater or something out there.
Yeah, and this, might as well let you know, so Verizon we've been trying to find a location because I think Verizon's the primary
Mhm.
phone that's having issues.
Mhm.
And so we are working with them, Ryan scanned, blueprints for the, Lord Jensen building. So that's been sent to them, so they're, looking very seriously, in fact, Ann has been working with them as well.
so we have a
There's a
strategy for.
there is a strategy to
solution here.
increase and beef up the cell service
Okay.
down on the waterfront, which frankly is 95% of the issue.
Mhm.
I can't quite say what a timeline is or anything like that, but
Yeah,
we're looking into it.
great.
The only thing that I would suggest is, and then if we could get back on topic, that'd be great, is to maybe on our website. Have something that if you're having difficulty, take a picture. Timestamps are wonderful and
Yeah.
and helpful. And so if you're having an issue, you know, you can screenshot that you get the wheel of death,
Great.
here's the time,
Yeah.
here's the plate.
All right.
Bring that in and it will be remedied. But I know Kevin's talked about it a couple times. And Daryl, did you have something to say as far as multiple apps?
Yeah, and just that some of it has to do with the back end part of it, like the payment part goes through a separate company than the app part. So we work with Duncan Solutions, who also does the Breeze Buy for us.
Mhm.
So it's just adding more layers.
Understood.
And so it's not as easy as it
The way that we're
sounds.
set up now is more efficient.
Well, through Flowbird, yeah, we use
Okay.
Duncan, but I think it would be great if we were the same as the city. I 100% agree with
Yeah.
that, but the bigger reason, I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cool, thank
But
you.
and Flowbird is widely used. It's especially like up in the Seattle area.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it a lot.
Should we at least put a little note out on the website that we understand some of you are having problems specifically in this area? Here's what we're trying to do about it.
sure.
And I think it's an ongoing thing as technology changes, it's always gonna be something that we're looking into. Okay,
And I would suggest. Maybe Kevin,
Mhm.
you get back with this guy and say, thanks for your input.
Yeah,
Here's what's going on. Here's what we're trying to fix this for.
yeah.
And we
Thanks
have
for bringing
responded to him.
Yeah, I actually called the phone number in there and left them a voicemail, and haven't heard back. but,
Okay.
Well, and we did respond.
Did you?
And we did,
Okay, good.
I checked with Molly today.
Great. And one thing because it is somewhat timely, it's been around, is the issue brought up about the city of Eugene or
Grants Pass.
well,
Yeah.
the issue with
Sorry.
I'm losing my train of thought here.
How'd you like the baseball?
Yeah. Okay, get on train of thought here. So with the Supreme Court case about having cash.
right,
And so if you recall, we did pass a resolution a couple of months ago in June because there was a request to have a place where you could actually put coins in to pay for parking. And so if you recall, there was a resolution that Ashley, our attorney, developed talking about the internet, that because internet to internet transactions are exempt from that policy. So we dealt with that a few months ago.
Mhm.
It's gonna be circulating,
Yeah.
it's gonna come back again, and so just something that the commission should be aware
well,
of.
and the bridge authority as well, cause there's the cash. Rules,
But yeah,
so,
so anyway, just wanted to get that on your radar because it's probably not, it's gonna continue to come up.
okay. All right, and then as far as consent agenda, any,
I've got one real quick one.
okay,
On item D.
Mhm.
Which is this, the roundabout.
yes,
Okay, with this change. We're paying KEFF to only do a 60% design on the roundabout. Why are we only going to 60%?
Well, part of it is because we don't have all the funding yet. If you remember, we've got about 2.9. And so,
How much do they need?
let's see.
I think what this is for is if we transfer it over to the new work order to focus on the roundabout and shift those funds, that gets us to the 60%, so that's what we can do the contract for. And then we'll have to go back and fill in the gap.
I understand. But even the 60%, there's some stuff that's missing there, like there's nothing in there for permits. So 60% is one thing. If we're going to stop at 60% and get another contractor, go out for bid, you're wasting your money with the
No,
60%.
yeah. No, I think that the idea is as we get
You
additional
want to
funding.
continue.
Yeah, so we're still under a master services agreement.
So on the 60%, does it include an estimate of all the work to go? As part of that deliverable?
I will look into that.
I didn't see it, but it
Okay.
may be there. I hate these types of contracts. I absolutely hate them because 60% is in the eye of the beholder.
Sure.
So you really don't know what you're gonna get with 60%. Is it really 60% done? I hate them,
Yeah.
and we're doing something different on the big bridge.
Yeah, I think the main issue is that we're on track. We've met with ODOT. And that was the big issue, is making sure that they're fine with the roundabout.
Right.
And so that was a huge milestone so that we can move forward. And that's why there's not a change in the overall project budget. But we can certainly get more deep. There's time to get that deep.
Where I was going with this is,
Yeah.
you know, we're doing the right thing doing this.
Mhm.
This gets you 9 months.
Mhm.
Okay, if we're looking for additional grants to help pay for the months after that,
Yeah.
we're already late if we haven't started anything.
Well, and if you recall in the initial proposal, part of that will be, if we don't have grants, the port was gonna be putting $1 million of its own funds in towards the project. If you recall, I mean, there was.
That's why I think it's really important that you make sure that we understand. Okay, what's it gonna take you to get to 100%? Plus, what other stuff that's not in here, like permits, that you need, that you could go out immediately for a construction contract, get the darn thing built.
So Mike, I got a question. I guess I understood this a little bit differently because I read this and this amendment itself is to change the scope of work, because we're not doing the Anchorway extension and we're doing
Right.
the roundabout.
Correct.
And this says here that the amendment is needed to identify the milestone that will be used as a 60% design within the existing design budget. So my understanding was that saying yes to move forward with this initiates a process to then decide what is that milestone gonna look like?
No, when you read further into it, it
Okay.
says they will develop a 30%
Mhm.
and a 60% design.
Mhm.
And there will be those two deliverables. And then it stops at 60%. Nothing beyond that is authorized in this contract amendment.
Is this contract, time is of the essence?
It is, at least the first part of it,
Right.
because now that they've gotten the okay from ODOT, that's why they were wanting to change the scope so that they could start working on doing design on the roundabout. They had been doing some of that
Mhm.
prior, but they've been working out of scope. And so, they've been doing that for a couple of
Yeah,
months.
I'm just bringing
It's a
it
good
up
point.
because
Yeah.
I see this as a
Area of concern,
area of concern.
sure.
Is WSP overseeing this contract?
Yes, they are, and Scott, would be here, though he had a health issue, so he's recuperating right now, otherwise he'd be able to talk to that, so we can
So-
certainly set up a appointment to get with you, Mike. to-
Yeah, my concern is only taking it to 60%, 9 months away. Okay, if you really want this thing to continue, we ought to be asking, okay, what permits are we going to need?
Mhm.
And a lot of those permits take longer than 30 days.
That's for sure, yeah.
You know, so is the permits gonna end up to be, you got the design done, you still can't do anything because you don't have the permits.
Mhm.
So typically during design, you start listing out all the permits you need. And then start identifying those tasks that you gotta get done and lead times and all the rest of it. So if we're trying to get this thing built anytime soon, those are the kinds of things that we ought to be looking for. And,
Absolutely, yeah.
and 9 months will go very quickly. And if you change contractors at the end of the 9 months, you can pretty much throw all of this away.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we don't wanna do that.
No,
All right, well, let me get some more detail and I'll follow back up with you, Commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
is this, are you comfortable with moving forward to approve the amendment with the intention of
Yeah.
that it will be, a little bit more ironed out
Yeah.
over the next
I can-
couple weeks?
I'm fine with it the way it's worded now, but I'm just giving everybody caution that, by the way, you're not paying for design, you're paying for a piece of it.
Mhm.
So you gotta make sure that in 9 months, you got money ready to go immediately, or if you disband this guy, the likelihood you're gonna have rework coming back in with a whole new team.
Right, and
So,
permitting isn't, it isn't
that's-
mentioned at all in the 60%. It only says for that future 90% that there's a reference to final permitting, but there's nothing in the 60%.
Exactly, and the next aha moment is 90% doesn't mean squat.
Yeah.
You want IFC issue for construction,
Yeah.
and that's what we're doing on Big Bridge.
Okay. Alright.
So,
Okay,
so
Just let me
I'm fine
follow-
with it, I just wanna
yeah.
make everybody aware.
Thank you.
There's a couple pinch points that are gonna come up on this.
okay, and we just need to button that up. a
Yeah,
little bit better.
absolutely. I'll follow up on that and get back to you.
Thank you for looking closely into that. I read it the way Tor did, and so I didn't.
It's like,
I just thought it was an administrative shift from one street to the other, so.
right,
Oh,
Thank you for being more detailed.
here we-
Okay, and so beyond that, is there any other discussion or can I get a motion to approve the consent?
Move that we approve the consent agreement as written.
And as,
second.
as discussed, okay, all in favor, aye,
Aye.
fair aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions about the bridge replacement project update? If not, we can move to presentation and discussion item.
Can I just make one comment on that? You know, we have been working on right of ways, kind of starting to come to the top of the concerns. And if you recall, the IGA between the port and the bridge authority kind of kicked the can down the road regarding right of way. And so my recommendation, and we can talk about it next month, but would maybe to have a session in executive session to talk about, you know, how we want to start the negotiations or preparing for those issues.
Yeah, let me jump in. I
Yeah.
think what would be very helpful for the commission is to get some training on the law and DOT rules for this whole thing. And there's some very specific things you gotta follow if federal grant's gonna pay for it. And
Yes,
you cannot screw up. If you screw up, they don't pay.
okay, so then I have a question on top of that. Would it be beneficial for everyone's knowledge for us to possibly do like a educational roundtable with the bridge authority and the port?
Can't do that. Can't do that. And.
No, just for the education process.
Well, the bridge has already got it. We already went through it.
Oh, you already went through it,
And
okay,
we were told at the time, you don't want to have the two groups together.
okay,
I mean, to me, it's silly.
okay.
That's
But,
what-
okay, so then we could have our own roundtable of an education thing, and then we could break into executive session to.
Now, with that in mind, there's been some issues with federal highways
Uh-huh.
on this whole process with Debbie, Kevin and myself. Now, it ended up to be me because I'm a elected official on both boards. Okay. So I've decided that I'm gonna recuse myself from the right-of-way issue as far as voting. Apparently, I can still sit in, talk, discuss, but when it comes time to vote, I gotta back away from it on both sides.
That seems fair.
So. So, yeah, it's coming. I think on the other side, they need to get a schedule laid out and they're almost ready now because of the discussions back and forth. And I think you two, we've got an agreement that now you're fine. Because you're not in the decision
Yeah, we're not setting
makers,
policy
you're providing information to the decision maker.
and implementing.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. So I'll follow up with Michael as far as the training and find out.
Yeah, it may be that your lawyer is gonna have to do that. I don't think you can use HNTB's person
Yeah,
to train you guys.
yeah.
And it has nothing to do with money, it's separation.
There's four other things too. I mean, there's really four buckets of money that the board is really keeping an eye on. One is really determining what are the amounts for remodeling the new building. I mean, that's one of the issues that needs to be resolved. The second one is the physical relocation of everything from here to there. That's the second one. Third is trying to find mitigation land and determining values for the loss of the 6F land here. And I think we found one, but it has to go through the same kind of appraisal process. And fourth is the actual acquisition of the real estate that the bridge authority will need.
So I gotta be careful how I say this. But helping us understand the bigger picture. There will be evaluations made on properties and so on. And it's my understanding that whatever comes out of that, money could be exchanged to the port for loss of use. You guys, we will have to pay for relocation ourselves out of that pot.
And that's,
You can't just relocate and get it covered by the federal government.
and that's one of the things that's been a little bit for us. We haven't gotten any discussion or correspondence from the project. regarding this.
And we can't. We were told, no, you
Yeah.
cannot talk to anybody until we've gone through this training. That's why I mean, it's gotten crazy nuts. I think we could have had a deal months ago
Yeah,
between the two organizations, but you can't do that. So one of the cautions that I would have for you is be careful on expectations. So let's take this property right here. What's the worth of this property? Well, it's declared 6F. We, Port, built this property years ago. Kind of not in conformance with 6F. This building shouldn't be here. So this building has to go away anyway. Now, the 6F property, what is the 6F property worth? What can you do with the 6F property? There's a couple of things. You can put a parking lot on it. You can make some money that way, but you can't put a building on it. It has to be parks and recs related stuff.
Okay, well, that is
So
a more in-depth conversation than we're
Yeah,
having.
so there's a
ability
lot.
for right
there's a lot coming.
now. Okay. Well, thank you for that information and know that we have a lot coming down the pike.
So I think it's worth the commission setting up a smaller group.
Mhm.
That's going to be in charge of figuring this out and negotiating back and forth. And I think it's gonna have to be commissioners as well as staff. It can't be just staff.
Right.
So that's something to think about, how
Okay.
you want to organize it.
Anyone wants to leap up for that? Email Kevin, we'll have further talks, but it can't be you.
Correct. That's right.
Okay, sounds good. Anything in the executive director report, Kevin, that you would like to highlight?
Well, just before that.
Oh, I'm sorry, presentation and discussion, skip right over that.
Yes, so we're getting very close to having procurement rules updated. There was legislation that increased a lot of the purchasing limits for small, intermediate, and large procurements, and so. You know, a lot of it's boilerplate stuff, but on page 159, I've kind of laid out some areas where I would like to get some discussion from the commission as to what it would like to see. So for example, the big one is the executive director purchase authority. So right now, you're looking at, my reading of the policy is that it's a $5,000 limit, but past practice has been 10,000. I think that's fairly small. I did a survey of the other ports in the back. But perhaps more importantly, the small procurement used to be a 10,000 limit, which has been gone up to 25,000. And so there's some examples of how other ports have done it. You know, some have as much as 75,000. Some it's just basically you have the right to make the procurement if it's in the budget. Others have an aggregate where like the Port of Portland the executive director has an aggregate of up to 2 million total in contracts that he or she can sign for. So I gave you the kind of a survey in the packet, but just wanted to open up a discussion so I can get some feedback to insert that into the policy before it comes to you.
So to clarify, your recommendation is that you have the authority to authorize up to $250,000 for budgeted projects and up to 75,000 for other contracts.
Exactly.
How did you choose those numbers?
250 is 3 informal bids. So that's all you have to do is just call up and get 3 informal bids. And that's the procurement process. If you go over 250, that's when you have to do the competitive bid process at the competition and scoring matrices and so forth. So it just made, my recommendation is just to be respectful of everyone's time. If we can, all you have to do is get 3 informal bids. That would seem like a reasonable limit. But you know, that's ultimately your decision.
So, to be clear, let's say, you have, a budgeted project, that's gonna cost $200,000. That's
Yeah, bridge project.
something's gonna cost
Yeah.
$200,000. Right now, you basically need to come to the commission and say, hey, can I go get bids for this?
Not exactly.
Not exactly. So let's clarify the
Yeah.
difference between how it works now and how you would like to. it to
Yeah.
work.
So right now, let's say there was a project out on the bridge for 200,000, like a miscellaneous steel repair project.
Okay,
Right now, we would have to go out and do a full invitation to bid. So that would just be, the engineers have it completely scoped out.
Mhm.
And we would bring the quotes back to you to approve.
And those are the scored, the,
No.
oh, no,
that
no, no,
informal,
okay,
it's-
informal,
it's
okay.
Well, actually, for an invitation to bid, we would just, we'd bring you the 3 informal quotes.
Okay,
So that's what would have to happen either way. It's just a matter of whether you want to approve it or you want to delegate that to the executive director. So the difference is really some efficiencies in timing.
Mhm.
You can by having that authority, we can issue the notice to proceed much quicker. We don't
You
have to,
wait for a board meeting.
or notice for a special meeting or
Yeah.
You know, it just makes it a little bit more efficient. It's already in the budget.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be like some project that was out of left field. So that's the thought there. And the key being, it's listed in the budget.
and the current, non-budgeted limit is 50,000? And you wanna raise that to 75?
So right now, for just a direct procurement,
Mm-hmm,
it had been
10,000.
10,000. Or you just go and select a vendor of your choice. That's been raised to 25.
Okay, so the 75 is different.
Yeah, the 75 would be like more of like if there was some kind of personal services. Like, for instance, like a attorney, legal bill or a legal contract. Going out for the auditing services, that sort of thing. If it's a personal services contract, and some of those might be more than 25,000. We could either bring it to you, or with a 75,000 limit, then the executive director, after receiving the proposals, as long as it wasn't over that 75,000. He or she would have the right to sign the contract and then report back. I mean, it's always good practice to communicate what events and what things are coming down the pike with the commission, so certainly wouldn't be a surprise.
So let me share what my philosophy is on this and get some feedback from you guys. Like, I like the idea of making it easier for you to operate more efficiently. My concern, so I've got that over here, and I'm weighing that against the concern of an elected commissioner to have the fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the money is spent wisely and, prudently and so on and so forth. So with upping these, especially the 75,000, then that seems to remove the oversight. Because if you were like, oh yeah, I'll just go hire this lawyer for $70,000 to do the job, and it's not coming to us. And so my concern there is where is the balance of my responsibility as an elected official to make sure that the money's spent responsibly. And there's some degree of it that seems arbitrary, honestly. Pick a number, So I'm trying to figure out like what other criteria I can use to make a good decision about this. I mean, you've shared the point that it would make things more efficient. You don't have to wait for a board meeting to do something where timing matters. You can get something done. And on the other side, I only have this vague sense of responsibility. So thoughts?
I thought a little bit along the same lines, and one of the questions I had was, and I understand on the front end, there could be time of the essence things, which makes it easier for you to say, I'm gonna go out and procure this $70,000 contract. Could we make it a requirement so that you're making, or whoever the executive director is making decisions and that information never comes to the board? Can we make a requirement of, which seems like it would be best practices, when you make a contract, you do bring it to the board, but it might be after the fact that it is already executed. Therefore, at least it's in a public meeting, it is announced, we can kind of track, this is working well. Or maybe there's a couple of them that were like, hey, that's a huge red flag, we need to revisit this policy.
Sure, yeah.
That was kind of my.
That's an interesting one. I did get a response from the Port of Tillamook Bay. After the packet went out, and they actually approve it annually. So, they basically have a business resolution. Who's your agent of record for legal insurance, health insurance, and then annually it says who the procurement officer is and what the limits are. And it's just a housekeeping resolution, but it was kind of an interesting way to do it. That way it can be reviewed every year, and you don't have to change the main policy. You can just change those limits on an annual basis.
See, I like that because there's a little bit more accountability.
Yeah, and then as far as coming back and reporting on the contract, I guess the question would be, what would the minimum size contract that you would like to get reported on? Because we have a lot of smaller purchases, I think I think the treasurer.
I do, I look at them every week and
Yeah.
I always send a question, why are we spending this? What is this?
Yes, I did say Tor looks at him, I know. 'cause
I
he
know.
asked
That's like,
questions.
I don't understand, we better be, yeah, so. Yeah, I mean, I don't, when I'm looking at those things, if I see, for instance, if I see $8,000 or $10,000 for something, I mean, just inflation, the way things cost now, I'm like, okay. But if I see a $30,000 fee for something that I don't understand, that definitely raises a red flag for me to ask, like, what is this? I don't understand what this is, and I want to understand it. So I would say, just from my experience as a treasurer and looking over these things, like 25,000 is a really good, like, I want to know about things starting at that level.
Okay,
Tell you where I come from.
Yeah.
This is kind of midway between both of you, but maybe a slightly different view. And the port is undergoing a huge change in the next 2 years. Come July of 26, the cash cow is gone. We gotta live without the bridge. Debbie's doing a magnificent job getting a new system in place. It's not there yet. We need to get ourselves realigned to life after the bridge. And 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 today may not sound like a lot because we got millions coming off the bridge. 2 years from now, that could be a lot of money. So my gut feel is I wouldn't change much right now until we can see the reports and we start to see how people are using the reports and buying things for the new world. And once that's in place and we get some runtime on it, then I'm all for, raising limits. But until we exercise those muscles, I guess I'm very conservative. I would say no. I'd hold it. And yeah, it may be a little bit more pain.
Are you saying just leave everything where it is right now?
Yep.
So right now, would that mean that 25,000 is the cutoff for everything? Is that my
Well,
understanding?
Well, I
things-
think right now it's 5.
Right now, it's 5.
Well, it says the state law just upped it to 25.
Yeah, but we
But
don't
ours
have to
is
follow
5.
state law.
You can do whatever you want, yeah.
I would be okay going to 10, from the 5 to 10. But I would keep it pretty low for another year until we get the system really cooking and we're seeing where things are going. That's my opinion.
Okay, but it says here that despite the 5,000 limit, the executive director has approved purchases of less than 10,000. So that we're currently
Well,
using.
so he's out of policy right now.
Right, exactly. I was disclosing.
Okay,
that.
fair.
Yeah.
Fair. But I just, to be fair, looking over our expenses and the things that we do, we've got an awful lot of things in between $5,000 and $15,000. I mean, they're just, things cost more now than they did a few years ago. So
You want to take it to 20?
I do, yeah, I want to bump it up from where it is for these things, because otherwise we're gonna have an awful lot of.
Just keep it at 20 all the way across?
Yeah.
The other reason why I think we should do that is that I think staff is learning a lot about contracts. But stuff like what I just did today, I shouldn't have to do. The staff should be challenging ourselves, why are we doing this? Or should have the question, immediately, well, here's what we're doing, here's why. Now you're learning, and I'm giving you all the credit there, and I think it's good, but we need to do more of that. And the only check that we've got right now is that I get to see these things and I read them. And using my experience, hey, have you thought about this and this and this and this? And if it's after the fact, then the horse is out of the barn.
So, the state, did they raise it to 20 or 25?
The state rose the direct procurement up from 10 to 25.
Cause
So-
would it be easy, again, we just had this discussion on the policy manual. Is it an easier policy to say we follow the state? At this time?
To me, I don't care about the state, I care about making sure that we're lining ourselves up to live outside of the bridge.
Yes,
So I would rather go
a little lower.
a little lower than a little high.
Right.
Until we've exercised those muscles and shows that we're managing the crowd.
I think that's a great compromise for the time being to stick with a 20,000 to bump it up from where it is and proceed a little bit more cautiously.
Would it be fair so that we could adopt a more consistent policy to say this will be reviewed annually, kind of adopt that
Sure.
rule of this is now an administrative thing that we look at annually. And this is the first one and we do it at 20,
Yeah,
I'm absolutely fine with that.
yeah, let's do that.
okay? Is that okay?
Perfect. That's very, very helpful. But
But again, please don't take this as a
no,
criticism.
no, I don't. I really don't.
It's not meant that way.
This is your policy and you have to feel comfortable with all the different things that are happening, and so not a problem. I didn't want the policy to be in front of you and you're like, where'd you get these numbers from? So the feedback's very helpful. Okay, so what we'll do is a $20,000 limit for everything and then look at it each year administratively through a business
And
resolution.
again, as expected, if you've got something that's really hot that you need a decision on very quickly, call a special session. You
Yeah,
can get on the
absolutely.
phone real quick.
Okay, the second one. So, the current procurement rules, that's the ports, don't require the commission to review procurement documents. And so, and when I say that, that includes the scope of work, that includes
You know where I'm.
I know you're coming from, that's why I put this on here. It includes the proposed schedule, the scoring matrices, if it's a large one, so on and so forth, in advance of releasing the procurement. So, though it's not required, staff has done it because we've had some very large procurements and Commissioner Fox has been intimately involved with that. But it is a little out of the normal process, but this port is an abnormal port with the size of the projects that it has had. So that does add another meeting to the schedule for a procurement and getting a contract out the door, but it also gives the commission the opportunity to, look under the hood a little bit. And so I guess the question, if the commission is interested in seeing that, do you want to see everything? Do you want to see the scope of work? I'm just looking for some feedback so that we can incorporate the commission's intent into the procurement rules, so future staffs don't drop a step.
And I agree with Mike that this is a little bit of a, middle ground here. We have a lot of big contracts and a lot of giant moving parts that are gonna happen for the next 2 to 3 years, and then then we should really settle down after that.
And maybe it's for those competitive, maybe it's just for the large competitive over 250. Because that's what we've been really looking at.
Here's where I am. I don't need to know every detail about how the sausage is made, but I would like to know the scope of work in it and the proposed schedule. To kind of have a sense of a roadmap. That would be great. That's just me.
So this basically addresses a draft RFP. And the scope of work and the conditions and so on. And then you release that, go get bids and do your evaluation, and you
Yeah.
come back for approval.
So traditionally, we would not typically bring the procurement documents before release to the full board.
So in my humble opinion on this one. I'm more interested in the more complex larger projects that aren't standard. T's and T's. Where, like the roundabout. That's one I would definitely want to see, but if you're looking at a contract for janitorial services, I could care less.
Yeah, good point.
So I would suggest 250,000 or above. We take a look at it before you release it. Regardless of whether it's budgeted or not. If we're trying to spend $250,000 or higher on the estimate. We want to take a look at the way the contract's written.
Gotcha. So that'd be for a formal procurement.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that? seem
Sounds great to
reasonable?
me.
I don't argue.
The cookie cutter stuff, there's nothing we're gonna do with it anyway,
Gotcha.
other than say yes or no, and that's not the purpose of this one.
So just to confirm, so what staff would be doing for a large competitive procurement, we'd be bringing the final complete procurement documents to the board before it's released.
Yes. Now, there's ways that you could smooth that out if you wanted to. You could do a draft to one of us to grease it through if you
Sure.
want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you should present to the board. Here's your proposed procurement. Here's what you're trying to buy. Here's how you're trying to get it organized. So it gives us the impression that, okay, you got it. You know what you want to do, you figured it out, you got a timeline that meets all the criteria, go for it. But only on the bigger ones, and I think $250,000 is probably the low end of that. Which would be good, anything 250 or above.
That's not too-
Census thing, Christie, does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the third one, so commission approval of non-budgetary change orders. Currently, all change orders for contracts over the purchase authority are brought to you.
Mhm.
So theoretically, tonight, you've had two no budget change orders, no budget change orders. So the issue here is, do you want those change orders that are not budget related brought to the board for approval? That's primarily for scope change and maybe to a lesser degree schedule adjustments.
My thing again, over the next couple years, probably. Should that be part of the annual administrative decision? I think so. But I can imagine that there are certain commissioners on this board that want to continue to make sure that those change orders coming in are.
Sure.
And it holds not only. I would say it doesn't even hold, well, it holds everyone accountable, but it holds the contractors very accountable.
I agree.
So do I.
Okay, so we'll continue to bring all change orders. And reviewed annually. All right, excellent. Then the last one, which is kind of a weird one, but it's surplus property. So some organizations allow for employees to bid on surplus property. So this is property that has run out its useful life.
Like a printer.
A printer, it could be an old truck that we're looking to get out of our system because it's either costing too much to maintain or it's just junked out. And so so the question is do you want to have employees have the ability to purchase surplus equipment if it's opened up to the public generally?
So the way I would put it is. And it's probably unfair. But I'd still look at it this way. What could a news article allegate with that new rule? And is it worth it to fight the allegation? And I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's make one up.
A truck.
Yeah. Somebody from our maintenance department. beat up this truck, took the carburetor off of it, so it's non-operating. And bought the truck for $350. Put a carburetor on it and sold it for $6,500. That's the allegation that's out there.
Does the port generally put those items up for sale to the general public?
You know, a perfect example was that big metal thing up at
Yes.
the old mill. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, that thing weighed, what, 20 tons, something like that.
And someone wanted it.
We got $500 for it,
Yeah.
you know, just to, and they moved it away. I mean, that was half the savings right there, not having to move it. So these are tend to be, I mean, you could even put like a value for surplus property under some value amount, you know, employees could, you know, are eligible to. acquire.
But what I'm getting at is, what if we had a surplus page on our website where the public could go and access?
Mhm.
It's listed there. It's available for port to purchase or the public. The port's probably gonna know about stuff just from ears and eyes around here about things that might be coming up, and so they might wanna watch for it.
Sure,
But I think having it be out there
to notice.
to know, what you know, if, even if it's just on our website, and give it the opportunity to everyone.
I have a question about what you've written here. It says currently port employees are not restricted to bid or otherwise purchase surplus property after 3 days of no other purchasers. What does that sentence mean?
So I think what the intent was is that you open it up to the public if there's no. bidder.
Not the intent. How does it work right now?
Oh, I don't think we've.
We don't have a policy?
We haven't exercised that.
Okay,
It hasn't come into
So
play. but I-
the thing that you're saying
In
is
the past
though,
on vehicles,
Yeah.
we have, they go to auction.
Yeah, I was gonna
Vehicles
say, I
go to
thought we
auction.
used the state,
Yeah.
right, the state.
And there's nothing to say that you can't go follow the auction and bid
No,
on it.
Yeah,
no.
anybody could do.
There was one instance where I know that there was a truck available, that we're talking about a truck, and it was offered at low blue book value to a port employee.
Hmm.
Before it goes to auction, because auction always gives away less,
right.
but you don't know, but 9 times out of 10, it's lower than low blue book.
See, that particular one,
There's
I
potential
could
conflict.
see
Yeah.
potential.
I see a hand over there.
obstacles on that.
The city of the Dalles had a similar issue. They send everything through auction sales company.
Okay.
Anybody bids on it.
Just to alleviate the.
Yeah, it just removes you from that,
Yeah, I
exactly
agree.
what you're saying, because that's,
I guess I don't have a problem if it goes through the auction.
Right.
If Kevin says, oh, by the way, hey, there's this pickup here, Blue Book is this, if you pay Blue Book, I'll sell it to you. I think that gets a little dicey. So I would not agree to that. If it goes through an official auction, you're just like anybody else.
Or if the port has some sort of mechanism for
Maybe before it goes to auction, it's,
saying to the public, here, this is available. I don't know, but then the port has to manage
Yeah.
like its own auction.
Right.
Yeah, no,
Because-
Yeah.
Debbie.
So.
sorry.
Why-
I said that out loud.
I didn't read this memo before
Yeah.
today's meeting.
My preference to avoid a conflict of interest is to just, it all goes, you know, we don't have any sort of like. Oh, hey. You know, desk buddy, here, yeah, no. Don't like it.
So it either goes to auction or it goes in the junk pile.
Yeah, that's,
Sale Marine
yeah,
Green.
yeah. I mean, there was like scrap metal, you know, periodically we'll have a bunch of scrap metal, same thing.
Oh,
It's just not worth fussing with public perception.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. All right, I think that's it. So what I'll do is I'll incorporate this discussion into that policy
okay,
and I'll bring that to you in October,
great.
or I guess September.
Okay,
Now it's the ED report.
yes.
So just quickly, there are some things that are not in the written report that I just wanted to go through real quick. The ODOT fracture critical report, I know there's been some interest in when that's coming out, and so Ryan reported that that should be released next week.
Soon as you get it, shoot it to me. Will they give us the sufficiency rating at the same time?
That's my understanding in the fracture critical report, that's where the ratings are.
Should be.
The Hood River Museum would like to schedule an appreciation breakfast for the port due to the lease that they received over at Big Seven. So the dates that they are off, that they would like to have the breakfast are Thursday, the 7th of November, Friday, the 8th, 14th of November, which is a Thursday, or Friday, the 15th of November. So want me just to pick a date, and if you're available, make it, or do you want to
Right
check?
now, November is better than earlier than that.
Yeah, November is good.
For right now.
Yeah,
And I would say earlier November better than later.
like the 7th or 8th.
Yeah, just make sure the museum understands that each breakfast value can be no more than $50.
Yeah, okay. No
The
mimosas.
The ethics commission, okay, good, great.
Excellent. The waterfront parking, lot site plan applications were submitted yesterday to the city, so there's now a 120-day process for them to review the plans. Also contacted, Daniel Peterson, if you remember him, he's the bankruptcy attorney with Cosgrave Law about the Rapid Ready Mix lease, since the new account has been established. So, if you remember, we closed out the old account, started a new one. We still have not received any payment.
And they still got their junk up at Odell.
Exactly. Now, they have made progress.
Well, they bought in a backhoe.
Well, they've
And
been
a
crunching up
crusher.
concrete. So
And a
there's
crusher.
actually some separated rebar.
Is there?
Yes, a pile about about these.
Oh, we got 2 piles.
So it's been broken down into smaller pieces, but it's still there. I did talk to Riley. He said he's gonna get it done by the end of the week.
Great.
So,
Yeah, which way?
yes, but I continue to keep up on them and then trying to find out what recourse we have from here on out.
How about the insurance on the bridge repair?
Everything continues on. We have not received the final invoices from the repairs.
Okay,
From either Kiewit or from HBR.
Why not?
It's still
oh,
ongoing.
they run a little bit. How about the guys that were up on the lift tower? Did we get their invoice?
We did get West Janney's, so that one's good. We got all of our hours for the 24/7 traffic control. That's all been identified.
How about loss of tolls?
Yep, we got
That's
that
in.
all done. So really, it's just the two big
So the
contracts.
loss of tolls includes the 2 parts, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Total amount, yes.
So, and that's going on, but it's gonna take, it would not surprise me if it took a year before we got a check. But Scott Rainier's monitoring that for us. Hood River County Emergency Management Manager Charlie Young noted that the FEMA Technical Assistance BRIC grant application was not successful. So that was going to be used for some soft costs, some early engineering for an emergency operations center that could have helped with that admin building at the airport. So he's going to reorganize and resubmit next year. So I told him that we want to be involved. in that.
Totally.
American Cruise Lines agreement is expiring in February. They've given formal notice of their intent to pursue a new agreement. We don't have to give them one.
So
But
it expires in
And
February,
this
so we
year.
got some time.
we got a little bit of time.
Okay.
And so before approving the new agreement, Kiewit Construction and Fox and Commissioner Fox and I have talked about this. We need to fully understand what their movements are so that Kiewit and ACL have that understanding. I know Daryl has reached out to the ACL ops people.
Yeah, so it will probably impact the first 2 piers from the Oregon side. And there's gonna be a ton of barges out there with cranes and drilling rigs. As those guys try and come around and pull in. So we're gonna have to watch that one real careful. So once you get their diagram, Kiewit's ready to overlay it on top of a map that shows where the piers are going to be, and they've got some sizes of barges with cranes on it to kind of show the movement there and the correlation.
Awesome, okay.
So,
Is this a conversation that we might wanna have? And I don't know, looking at potential temporary solutions to move them away from the.
I think what would be helpful for you guys, and we're gonna do this for federal highways. I've asked Kiewit and it's now done. I've actually got it. We've got about 10 slides that shows how we're gonna build the bridge.
Okay.
Sequence wise and equipment wise. And it may be an eye opener to everybody about the congestion that is coming to the shores here.
Right, like I'm just wondering, you know, I know that we've always talked about the pylons not being a discussion item. But would we maybe consider it as a temporary or work with the Best Western for some of their frontage about? I'm just wondering if that would be a good conversation as we're looking at the overlay, let's
I think-
really look at it.
I think that's a strong possibility. The first step, though, is to understand the barges in the area and how they intend to bring that ship around and bring it in. That's gonna tell us whether we got a real problem or not.
Okay,
And then if we got a problem, then we go to step B.
And one other thing that Michael Shannon suggested, he thought that 2 years. That there probably wouldn't be, so we wouldn't have to do a full 5-year either. Do a shorter term.
No, here's the problem, on the Oregon side. Those will be the first ones to go in, and there's gotta be a work bridge that goes out first. And then we'll work on 2 piers.
Gotcha.
We're gonna start on the other side as well and work towards this way, so. The 2 piers that we're talking about. Should be in the water, but we're gonna be working on the superstructure for the next several years. So this is not a 2-year and everything's good. This is gonna be out there for.
No, I was saying the other way around. That you could do a agreement with ACL for just 2 years.
No, well. Assuming that they can get their stuff in there.
Yeah,
If they can't. I don't think you got a year. If it's up in February, we will be in the water
gotcha.
when that one expires.
Got it. Okay. All right, well, we'll get that
Yeah,
diagram
I
to
think
you.
that's, and with February, we got a little bit of time that we can talk about it and do it right.
Commissioner Chapman and I were on Mark Bailey's Monday morning talk show. Thank you, Christy, for participating on that. We discussed the centennial event and the roundabout. Port of Cascade Locks, Debbie and myself met with Neology yesterday. So that's the company that recently acquired P Square just late last week. So I think I talked with some of you about that. Our current contract is good through June of 25. Which will be assigned to Neology, which is located down in San Diego. We met with their CEO and their CFO, but certainly this is something that we're monitoring. I mean, it's great for P Square. I know the Bridge Authority's been looking at tolling, but something that we gotta really. We were P Square's first charter customer. And so we were, I think, getting a very favorable rate compared to what we've been hearing. So we just have to brace ourselves for our costs on that, potentially going up. So
No doubt about it.
well, I'm sure.
We saw this same thing with the company I was with, because Primavera, which is a scheduling program, we were the first one.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was developed around our technique.
That's a really well-known.
It's worldwide, and once we lost that, okay, we're the launch. It went,
Yeah.
I have repeatedly had problems with this kind of situation, so I just would say.
watch
eh,
close.
Watch it really close and be prepared to look for other options, so.
Well, this is fresh off the press, so,
Yeah.
more to come, but it may require another procurement,
Yep.
but. We just need to see what the lay of the land.
there's several other options we're looking at.
Yeah.
That maybe you want to consider as well. depending on how Peace Corps works.
Sure. So more to come on that. I think I had reported last month that we did cite at least two trucking companies that went through the barriers during the emergency closure. And so we did get appeals from both of them. If you recall, the citation was for $700. So I talked with both of the owners, but we haven't received payment yet. So
Raise it to 800.
send them into the big court. Because the whole point for keeping under 800 was to
Keep it out of court.
keep it in small claims. So I'll continue to be working with Ashley as we kind of facilitate these steps, but I think it's really good that we're putting our feet down on this. I don't know how often this has occurred, but I mean, frankly, if I was staff or our contractors and we weren't doing this, I'd feel really bad about upper management.
Somehow we have to figure out how to make this visible to the public. Not naming names and giving license numbers, but I think it's helpful that people know that if they're gonna go across a bridge illegally, they're gonna get tapped.
Yeah. The other issue too that we may need to look at is wide loads, because frankly,
Yeah,
we do have height and weight notices. We know there are issues with weight, but the height is clearly visible. We don't have any wide load signs. And that's another one, like the one where the two wide loads locked up, and that would be a perfect example if it had been signed, where you could cite those trucking companies for doing that. So we're continuing to work with Ashley to
the other one that
navigate this.
I got concerned out of your report is the bicyclists going across.
Mm.
I mean,
Christian.
We were at lunch.
We were
I'm
having a
like,
business
what is
meeting.
that on the bridge?
We actually tried to catch the guy,
We did.
but yeah, it's the thing that was interesting with that is it's relatively easy for our staff for a semi truck to take a picture of the license plate and get
Yeah,
the side of the
yeah.
truck. Asking
Yeah.
a bicyclist for their ID is a different thing, which I
Mhm.
think you'd really want to have a.
or smile.
Yeah, right. It was actually a pretty clear
It's
picture.
pretty clear.
But by the look of his bags, it looks like he was just probably working his way south, but.
He was busy.
And then finally, KPFF, I know this is something that Ben had been tracking. Met with the city on the coordinating the design elements with the city stormwater project at the roundabout. So the city project's going to be built this winter. So that's happening. They're going to be procuring right next month. So there was discussion about upsizing. The city agreed to upsize some of their pipe to accommodate the added flow from the roundabout. So they're having good discussions so that we don't have to go back when we're building the roundabout and have to put in and upsize a bunch of things.
Mhm,
All of that out there was filled, right? They
Yeah.
used to be river.
mhm.
So that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, Commissioner Committee reports, you got anything for us?
No.
Okay,
Did you guys hear anything about a September 13th meeting in the Dalles?
no,
Oh, for the joint transportation.
Joint transportation, is the port gonna participate?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the only thing that we really have aside from the bridge is the roundabout.
mhm,
And so, we're kind of in a weird position right now because everybody still associates us with the bridge project, but we're trying to make a little bit of a separation so the bridge authority can be the face and the name of that. So aside from that, our
The only
project is.
thing I would say why you should send somebody there is the importance of maintaining the bridge as an exit egress to the local area. And we've had to use it several times in the last 3 months. And it's important for the Joint Transportation Committee to know that that is a critical pathway. It is getting worse. We've got a new fracture critical report that hopefully shows 2, which probably will. it's continuing to degrade. We got another effort that's going underway to get a new bridge, we gotta get that bridge. That's the way I would play that.
Yeah. So I'll be sitting there, I'll be attending, if any of the commissioners want to join me, feel free.
I think what they were trying to do is get commissioners on the panel.
Oh. That'd be great.
So I know Marla's gonna be on it, from the county, it's, the chair,
Oh, Jennifer,
yes, Jennifer's attending,
okay,
et cetera.
okay.
So you
You
may
wanna-
wanna
you
try
wanna-
and.
Right. The voluntold already.
Want cue cards?
Are you gonna be there?
September 12th, you said?
I think it's the 13th.
Okay.
Let me get you I'll get you the contact info.
Gee, thank you very
Now,
much.
later on in September, we got the Joint Transportation Committee from both Oregon and Washington coming out to spend time on it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should be a part of that.
Okay.
Okay, my commissioner and committee reports, the only things to report are, moving forward with the centennial. Gretchen's done a great job of laying out the day, working with all of the vendors and security and with Lee and coordinating it with Hobsfest. It sounds to me, a timeline will be released really soon, but I know that it has been brought to our attention a couple of times that the length of time that the bridge will actually be closed is a 2-hour window. So, right, from 10:30.
I think we're looking at 3, because you're
Oh,
probably.
yeah, 3
minimum
when you
a half
have.
hour to get set up and.
Yeah,
on
so
and off.
2, when we officially say the bridge is now closed, that extra hour buffer to make sure that everything's.
Well, the official closure will happen in advance of the setup.
Yeah.
So it's more like a 3-hour.
Yeah.
So did you guys ever get with Marla, or somebody on the new bridge to come play?
We are talking with, so we're going to have a kind of a roundtable meeting on Monday. To just basically go through, here's the pieces that are still outstanding, here's what we need to check in with, but especially since the Bingen is having their own celebration. And because this was the transportation corridor to tie the communities together, it absolutely makes sense to be working with both sides to.
No, I was thinking the new bridge, having some kind of a booth
Oh,
here.
absolutely, yes.
So has anybody contacted?
I think
Marla's
we're
in front of
working,
all of that.
okay, I think we're working on placements of where the booths are. I know when talking with the reserves. We've submitted the information to potentially have a flyover, which would be pretty neat. But that is one of their requirements as well, is to have representation, so I would,
Do I need to do anything with the new bridge to get involved?
no. We're meeting with Arthur on Monday.
Okay.
As a county representative, and then I will reach out to Marla. Since she's kind
If
of.
for
the
some reason
PR.
you can't,
Mhm.
you know,
No, we definitely, and I've mentioned it to Michael Shannon to have a lot of informational.
well, there's tons of
Yeah.
new stuff now.
Yeah.
I think Anna
Like I
sits
showed
in
you.
on the, Anna Mara.
Yeah.
She's sitting in on the,
JLA.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
No, we definitely want to showcase beautiful new bridge. So that's what's going on with that. We've got a couple of musical interests and so I think it's just gonna be a good, fun community day. We're excited. So that's all for that one. And then the other one is which isn't as big of a priority. Well, it's a priority, but not time is of the essence. Priority is the license plate and the 501c3. There was questions of, well, why does a port need a 501c3? And I think, we're still in the very beginning phases of it. But the main focus for the 501c3 is to help close the gap of funds on public recreation spaces. how detailed we wanna be with, if someone wants to contribute money for a specific park, those details need to be kinda hammered out so that they're incredibly transparent of where people's money goes.
And an opportunity for the airport as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yes,
To raise money
yeah,
for construction.
yes, but so people will be able to have a say in the public spaces of the port.
You know, it's interesting, I just Googled nonprofit maintenance grants for parks.
Uh-huh.
And there are, there's amazing, more than I thought, because
Mhm.
most grants for maintenance is kind of a rare thing. So anyway, there are some opportunities out there when it's ready.
Yep, so that's all we're moving forward with that, but I think the first step is we need a couple months to get the 501c3 up and running, and then the centennial will be over with and we can focus on it. And that's all for me. And then as far as action items, we don't have any, right?
No.
Okay.
Not this month.
Okay, and so with that,
Christie?
yes, ma'am.
Did you guys meet Jeff Renard? Have you guys all met our airport manager?
Oh, I have.
I believe so.
So I
Okay.
just assumed everyone. If anyone not met, I should,
And so.
I would like to welcome Jeff to
It's
our
his
meeting.
first meeting, and
Yeah.
so
And
what
I
are our
actually-
manners?
I actually had a few questions for him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I
That's what I
thought,
wanted to.
Public meeting would be perfect time to put him on the spot.
Blue, if you were looking for the new car.
So I'm really excited to see that we have this equipment installed to show what our daily operations are at the airport. I think information is powerful and that will be very useful to us in the future. Am I understanding correctly that we are paying for full?
We have not,
We have not.
we have not done
Can we
that.
do that? What do you need to do that? Does he, I just have to give you a thumbs up or,
I believe so.
okay,
I mean, again, that's the piece of this relationship. I'm still learning where do I
absolutely.
make a decision to spend $100 a month or $150?
Yeah, so right now, we don't get like the full information on usage. We can look at a 7-day window.
Okay,
But if we pay the $150 a month, then we get all the days. And there's a little sample in here.
yeah, I saw the sample.
And so, there's some things that pop out. One of them is, there's a type 3 firefighting helicopter that uses our airport a lot. And being able to track that and show when we apply for grants and things, hey, this is really important, what our airport's being used for, and that could really help us in a lot of ways. So I'm very much in favor of spending that $150 a month. I did have a question for you though, which is that limited to aircraft with ADS-B?
It is at this point.
It is.
I don't know if there's not a lot of technology out there that is cost effective
That can just
to
get
capture the
everybody.
rest. We do have somebody here in the Gorge, Sage Tech,
Mhm.
actually has the ability to do that. What
Yeah.
they don't have the ability to do right now is take the data that their radar captures and make it into that robust of a report
Yeah.
for us. But every time I see Matt, I am on him
Talking about it.
like a bug on his windshield.
And here's another question. A lot of the helicopters that come in, fly in a very non-standard sort of way. Are we capturing 100% of them if they do that, or do they?
If they've got ADS-B, it's capturing. it.
We're getting.
I've got the antenna set at the fuel,
Awesome.
at the fuel pump.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's
so even
not
if
quite
they're,
midfield, but they're.
there's a TFR over here at Whiskey Creek Fire, even if they make like a beeline from there to the fuel.
Oh,
We're
they're pinned.
getting it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. They don't have to fly the runway or something.
Not at all.
like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's where a lot of those some of the older technologies and whatnot, it was actually capturing motion or.
you had to be on the runway,
Correct.
and this gets around that, so that's great.
Yeah,
That's
this is
exciting.
triggering off of every ADS-B. I mean, you fire up, I can watch the movement on the ramp while you're taxiing around.
Great.
How long have you been the manager of it?
At the Dalles since,
sure.
here, 90 days?
2 months.
Okay, so
60
you
days.
got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Well, actually, a lot. So I also just wanted to draw attention to all the stuff that you've done so far without going through every single item, because it's in the packet, which we've all read very thoroughly. And
Very.
we know, but I just want to say thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm trying. It's just there's so much, and to answer your question, I managed TAC Aero from 2016 until I took over as the airport manager in the Dalles
Okay,
in 2021 or 2020. So I'm very, very familiar with the client base. I mean, I know most of the tenants up there. I know some of the hiccups. I know some of the ins and the outs, the good, the bad and the ugly. I mean, so it's
so what would be interesting for me and probably everybody else? Give you another month, 2 months. And I'd like to hear from you what you think we can do to increase the revenue stream out there and do it in a year, 2 years, 3 year kind of a window. You've gone to a couple of them now, you've come back. What have you seen elsewhere that we could do here to raise our revenue up?
I can give you a boilerplate right now.
Don't want it right now,
Okay.
but think about it, kind of generate it into a presentation. Maybe you present it to the airport commission first. But I think I'm very interested in how are we going to make our whole system here more robust, especially when we lose the bridge. And a fresh set of eyes is good.
I am working, that is,
That's
Goal.
that's in your contract.
yeah, it's my main priority,
Yeah.
is to, how do we make it self-sustaining and stand alone?
And then how do we kind of maximize where we can, getting grants that help pay for this stuff? All of the above.
Hey, Jeff, one quick thing, are you done or,
Please.
I just wanted to make sure, I think I missed putting it in the action items, but on any of those land use agreements, like if the firefighting agencies need to use the airport, could you just touch on?
He said he didn't want to hear about it until next month.
The fires are gonna be done by then, so better get on it now, I guess.
Just as a high level look at that, yes, I look at it as leasable space, so literally taking a square footage and saying this is leasable for during the fire season, this helicopter will pay 175 a day for use of this. The type 3 that you referred to is operating in and out of both airports. Well, they called me and said, well, they wanted to know my methodology for a daily use fee for both airports, because they're overnighting at the Dalles. But they fly down here, have their fuel truck follow them in. And they're using our airport every day as dispatch. I mean, they're just flying the brass around to look at these fires. The agreement was, you're using both airports, you need to pay for both airports. If it's $100 a day for a type 3, then it's $100 a day at both airports, because you are using them. You're flowing fuel, that's 10 cents a gallon. So yes, the land use agreements are important. I do not have a written land use agreement with the U.S. Forest Service for Hood River Airport yet. I have one for the Dalles. It is documented the dates that they've started using this, and I've got the communication. They are just a little bit overwhelmed as the fire is burning through some of the areas that it's burning through. They have some high level issues right now with it's getting into the reservation and stuff, and so they've got.
Well, welcome. You got a neat challenge in front of you.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm glad to be here.
I guess I was just a summary, so maybe if there's consensus from the commission to go ahead and let Jeff sign on any of those fire agency land use agreements. Because we want to make sure that he's got the authority to negotiate this contract that affects both our airport and the Dalles.
Go ahead.
Oh, just on that, though, what we talked about the other day too, is just the ability for emergency situations where we were like, we're having the fire in Trout Lake. And it's an emergency, and Jeff is like, I don't know if I have authority to approve something like that if we need, and so them to be able to come use this. And it was like, well, geez, we really
What's the
need
value?
to
How
have
much?
that.
I think you were saying what were the
Yeah, it
typical
was-
$100 a day for a landing? Is
Yeah.
that
I'm working, you would be looking at not an expense that I'm signing off on.
revenue?
I'm writing,
Already.
it's revenue. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
When when microwave fire took off, I billed $10,000 out to Oregon Department of Forestry for the city of the Dalles. Or I mean, through
Okay,
the
so where
Dalles,
I'm going with this, you're signing contracts.
yes,
Um,
for income.
you've got now $20,000 immediate approval.
But that's spending.
That's
This is the
expense.
other way around. We're getting revenue.
All I'm doing is signing an agreement that says you're going
That's
to,
all right, I'm not used to making money.
that's all I know how to do.
Different thing.
That,
I just want to, I just want you to know that Jeff and I will be working with the agencies for them to pay rent. When they come and they get reimbursed by the feds or other agencies, and so
I
we
would
just want you to
feel,
know.
I would feel comfortable for this summer season. You do what you gotta do, but it's short term, once it's whatever the season's over, which is what, September?
October, so, yeah,
October, 1st of October, you got that authorization until 1st of October. And then we get some time to figure out how do we handle going forward. That allows you enough room that you can maneuver right now,
perfect. And that is
but that's
Yeah.
my opinion.
that's the authority that I have with my other airport, is that those agreements, I mean, I have a spending, I think I'm allowed to, I think I'm up to $10,000 at Dalles that I can spend without city manager approval. I'm not looking to, I do need to understand what it is that I have to, because I know Kevin's time is very valuable. What level do I make a decision on the $150? But the income side of it, yes, I would, that was my assumption. Had you not brought that up, I would have signed the agreement tomorrow when they
Right,
had it
I
to
just
me.
want to get that out. So I would even maybe suggest a motion. Just to authorize the airport, a contract airport manager to approve any revenue contracts for the 24 fire season.
Perfect.
Which ends 1st of October.
As amended.
End of October, according to
Yeah.
watch duty.
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
the
that's it.
lead
You can
fires.
come, you can come back to me and say, hey, you need to extend it for 2 more weeks or another month.
The land use agreement will actually be in place at that point. So I mean, that would be the thing I'm trying to, that I try to do with each season. I go ahead and meet with these people. There's extenuating circumstances because now there's a higher level of feds that have come in. So we'll set a land use up with one group and then they get superseded and somebody else comes in and takes over.
So I move that the port authorize our contract airport manager to approve land use revenue agreements for the 2024 fire season. That
Through
seems
1st of
reasonable.
October.
I just said fire season.
I would say the fire season because I don't understand who decides what the fire season is and how long it lasts, and it's not gonna go much longer than that, but if it's a few days, I don't wanna add extra
Stress.
work. So I would just say the 2024 fire season. It's obviously not gonna go into 2025. That's my motion.
Second,
All right,
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay,
Thank you.
good to go.
Thank you.
Make us some money. All right,
Okay, if
cool.
you saw $100 on the ground, you'd pick it up.
Well, and the great thing, I mean, this is a real benefit of obviously having that data collected.
yeah.
Because it's very hard to do something like that if you don't have any data. So,
Data is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and with that, we have some upcoming meetings. If anyone has any conflicts, please check in with Kevin. And then directives to staff.
That's a follow through on the consent agenda.
Follow through on the consent.
Yeah.
And then I guess that means that we will recess regular session and enter to executive session. Correct, under There's a lot of them. Is it all of these that I need?
No,
Okay.
just, sorry, I thought that one got highlighted.
It
Just
did.
ORS 192-660 subsection 2I,
2I.
performance evaluations of public
Pub-
officers and employees.
Yes, so we'll enter into executive session under ORS 192.660 2I performance evaluations of public